Okay, so when you get started, you want to choose the right lace. This is transparent, beige, medium brown, light brown, and dark brown. All right, so here are some of the things that I use in prepping my unit before I tweeze it. It's always easier to prep your unit if you're bleaching it first. Blonde Me is my favorite. I'm going to use a 30 volume. Then I'm going to shampoo it. Okay, so I'm going to take 1 full scoop of the Blonde Me. Try not to mix too much at one time unless you are working on several pieces at a time. When I mix mine, I like to mix mine to a certain consistency. If you need an exact consistency, what you can do with 1 scoop, if you notice there's a line right here on this scoop, I really like to mix mine to consistency. I don't really go by an actual measurement because sometimes depending on the room temperature that can change things. So what you want to do is I like to mix a little bit in at a time because I like for it to be really thick. That's going to help keep it from over processing. If it's too thin, it's going to process too fast. If the room is really warm, it's going to process really fast. So sometimes room temperature plays a major part. If you notice, I still put a little bit in at a time. It needs to be thick, so thick that you should be able to turn it upside down. Okay, so when I'm working with a frontal, I do it a little bit different. If you notice, the hairs are kind of like everywhere. So what you want to do, you can take like some hairspray and you can comb these out of your way. You have all of the hairs out the way. It's ready to bleach. I don't like to lay mine down on a counter or anything or a table and bleach it. I don't like to lay it pressed against anything and bleach it because you could take a risk of it bleeding through. What I like to do is I like to pin it against my mannequin head. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I am going to put just a little bit on my, you see I'm using a wooden spatula. I'm either going to use a wooden spatula or an actual plastic spatula. I never use a brush. I feel like brushes push it through. So I'm only going to use one of these to do it. That cuts down the risk of it bleeding through. When I do it, I'm going to go ahead and I'll start at the bottom half of the frontal. Bottom half meaning this half down here, guys. If I start at the top, it's going to be pressed against the head. So I just want to start down here. Lightly do it, don't press hard. And you want to get all of the hair that's across the front and the back. Alright, so after you're finished, you can go ahead and lay it on either plastic or aluminum foil. Notice I don't have a lot of product on here. I'm not going to lay it I'm going to lay it face down because if I lay it this way, it could bleed. So we want to lay it face down. Aluminum foil helps it process. If you notice anything, just make sure that you don't have any on the hairs. Check for bleeding through and make sure you did get all of the knots. Alright, so if you're working with a wig, the application is a little bit different. I'm going to show you that. But one thing that I do want you to take notice of is these knots. Sometimes across the front, sometimes the knots are smaller. And sometimes in the back, the knots are larger. So you can start applying, even on your frontal, you can start applying those the bleach in the back first, and then you can come back up to the front maybe after about 10 to 15 minutes. It's totally up to you and how you want to do it. That way you can make sure everything is processing at the same amount of time. Okay, so on this wig, I'm going to start in the back where the knots were a little bigger. I'm going to put it on the entire back of the wig. I'll let it process for a few, and then I'll go ahead and bleach the front. Maybe I'll say about 10 to 15 minutes. You can allow it to sit, and then go ahead and bleach the front, since the front knots are smaller and it may not need to be there as long. Now you can do the same process with your frontals as well. Okay, so I let it process. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply to the front, and I'll let that continue to process. I usually let my frontals process anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes, but it mainly depends on the vendor. Sometimes you can test a piece, because I have found some where I've only needed them to process for 25 minutes. So you can do a test on an area just to make sure before you decide to go with a particular number on how long it will stay. Okay, so now that I do have it on, you want to make sure that the knots are covered. Make sure that you have all of the wig bleached. Now you're going to go ahead, and I usually like to layer mine with plastic, or you could use aluminum foil. Then I'm going to stuff it with a towel. I'm going to roll it over, because I don't want gravity to take control of the product that I have on here, and I don't want it to cause any bleeding. So I'll set my timer and allow this to process for probably 30 minutes. Okay, so after you get finished, you're going to go ahead and rinse it, and you'll notice sometimes it may be a little orange. So I'm going to go in with my purple shampoo, and if it's really, really orange, you can mix it with blue shampoo. Okay, so place the shampoo in the back portion, and then you can go ahead and shampoo it. Be careful, because it can turn the lace gray. Now, we're going to tone it. I'm going to use Shades EQ 8VB, or I may use the Shades EQ 8V. It just depends. If it's really, really orange, I'm going to use the 8VB. If it's just slightly orange, I'll use the 8V. You're going to mix equal amounts of the processing solution, equal amounts of the clear. Once you mix everything, it should look like a jelly. You can go ahead and put it on there. You're not going to harm the hair. It's just a deposit only. If it gets on the black hair, that's fine. All we're trying to do is remove the orange tones. As you put it on there, you should immediately see it disappearing. I'm going to put it on the front and underneath. Okay, when it comes to processing time, you really want to watch it. Don't walk away from it. It can take anywhere from 3 to 4 minutes, sometimes less, because the Shades EQ is very aggressive. So once you notice the orange is gone, you can go ahead and rinse it out and condition. Okay, so here is our model that we will be using. She has a low hairline on the side where her hair comes out, and we want to make sure it matches. Okay, her lace is a little light, so we're going to tint it using the boho dark brown lace tint. We're going to gently spray it. We'll do it in layers. The more you spray it, the darker it'll get. You can test it each time till you get it to the person's skin tone. And we are there. So as I explained, she had a low hairline on the side, so we want to match her hairline. And the best way to do that is to lay it on that person's head. If you notice, she has space in the middle. So we're going to bring the lace forward to match the sides that came out. And in the middle, we're going to part that going back so that we match her hairline. So we're not having the front come all the way down to her eyebrows. Okay, so the portion that we parted off, we narrowed it out. If you watch my previous video, you'll see me doing that technique. Now that we've removed that hair, now we can start to customize. Okay, so what you're going to do first is you're going to part it where that line of demarcation, and you can see where the hair gets a little thicker behind that area. You want to part it because we're going to start tweezing in the back first. I always like to tweeze wet, and I always like to tweeze after I have bleached the knots. We're going to tweeze it a section at a time. We're going to be removing density first. You're going to open your tweezers. Make sure you're holding it at the correct angle. You want to make sure that you are stroking towards you or away from you. Make sure that you get close to the base. You can tweeze up or down. You're going to pull the hairs out as you go. You can do 5 or 6 strokes and then pull the excess hair out. You see how I'm tweezing towards me or away from me. Getting very close to the base of the lace so that you don't have short hairs. And you're just going to continuously remove hair on either the left or right side, but just do one at a time. Make sure you never tweeze in that line that we parted for the line of demarcation, because you'll end up making that part wide. I'm going to continue working in slow motion so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm making sure I get close to the base, and as I take several strokes, I'll stop and remove the hair. But notice I'm tweezing either up or down, away from my body or towards my body. Now I can go to the next section. Once I'm happy with the density and how much hair I remove, I'll move up to the next section, either tweezing away or towards my body. Okay, so I've tweezed this side and we can compare it to the other side. That is not complete. It's still very thick. On this side, you're just going to go ahead and you're going to do the same thing you did on the other side to make it consistent. Okay, so now that the back density is like I would like for it to be, now we can work along the front of the hairline. This looks too perfect. I still have the video in slow-mo. I'm going to wet it. You always want to work with it wet. It makes the hair come out easier. The hairline is too perfect and too straight, so we need to make it a little uneven so it looks more natural. What we're going to do is you're going to take your tweezers and I'm going to push that hair forward and I'm going to go in and I'm going to tweeze some of that hair out because I need to make it match with the back. It's still a little too heavy for me. If it's not heavy for you, you don't have to take that much hair out, but that's totally up to you. It's an option. But I want to make sure that that's blended with the back. I'm pushing it forward so I can see how thin it is. Or you can take the lace and lay it on the side of your face to check it. And notice I'm still tweezing in the same motion, either up or down. Once you're happy with the density, then you can move on to customizing the hairline. But notice I'm very close to the root so I don't have short hairs. Once the density is like you like it, then you're going to kind of skip across the front so that you can kind of make it uneven. If you notice, as I do it, you can see some little notches or either gaps come in, which is good because that is how a person's hairline really looks. You can even go in and make more gaps because the more uneven it is, the more natural it looks. You can even tweeze going back at this point. It's totally up to you when it comes to customizing. This is just my technique and how I do what I do. But if you want to make sure you can see, it's best to tweeze away from your body or tweeze towards your body so that you can see what hairs are coming out. You can tweeze into the hairline, but just make sure you can see what you're pulling out. Now you can start to see where it is looking more natural compared to the other side. Now we want to go ahead and customize the middle section the same way we did the sides. We are just working along the front. Make sure you don't remove that much hair across the front. No one's hair is very thin in the very front, and you have to remember that this is the first place that a person's eyeball goes when they look at someone. So make sure you do not make the front too thin. What you're going to do is you're going to continue to customize the front. You don't have to section it off like we did the sides. I like to kind of reach in and just tweeze. In this front area, I'm pretty much going to do the same thing. I'm tweezing back. Just take your time, guys, and try not to pull so much hair at one time. I'm kind of going to go back and forth. I'll tweeze back and I'll tweeze from side to side, making sure I'm tweezing away from my body or either towards my body. Right here, I'm tweezing back just to create a little natural hairline, and I'll do a little bit at a time. When you're tweezing away from your body or either towards your body, I feel like you can see it so much better, but that's totally up to you. A lot of beginners like to tweeze it like this because it helps them see what they're pulling out. Okay guys, stay tuned for our application video. This was the model that I was using for that video, and it was a perfect match. We will upload that video shortly. Stay tuned.